Welcome to the Wisp Mama Bear Podcast, episode 15. I'm your host, Sarah Yacoub. Today's topic, weaponizing social media. Happy Friday, everyone. Today we're going to dive into the underbelly of the beast that is politics. While it feels easier, certainly more pleasant, to ignore that which is going on in our political sphere, putting our heads in the sand just forfeits any ability to fight for better or limit the harm done to our community. A community that can only tolerate conversations about pretty lights and that which leaves us warm and fuzzy is weaker as a result. Ignoring problems doesn't make them go away. In fact, in the case of state and local politics, it makes those problems bigger and the harm that results even greater. Real journalism is publishing something that somebody else does not want published. The rest is just public relations. George Orwell, which is actually the pen name for Eric Arthur Blair, is best known for writing 1984 and Animal Farm. For those of us still reading River Towns, or what used to be the Hudson Star Observer, when is the last time you read something that deviated from that which one would expect to find in the black and white version of Pleasantville? Side note, for those not familiar with the movie, check it out. It stars Tobey Maguire and Reese Witherspoon and is a good one. Even when River Towns does cover something of social inconvenience, the pieces are usually shallow and devoid of any real investigative journalism. One person says it's raining outside. Someone else says no, it's just sprinklers. According to River Towns, I guess it's just an unsolvable mystery and we will never know. That's a load of baloney. One person says it's raining, another says it's not. You stick your head outside and check. You interview material witnesses. You look to circumstantial evidence, which provides the context to tell us which one is right. Even if disinclined to give us an ultimate opinion as to which assertion is accurate, providing sufficient information to let readers reach informed conclusions is something we should all expect from journalism. Fair, balanced journalism is important. Equally important is the willingness to actually report on substance and not just settle with superficial talking points. When River Towns covered Assembly Representative Shannon Zimmerman's November win, they reported on it in the context of, quote, I guess voters don't care that he doesn't live in the district. Well, for one, simplifying it sugarcoats it. Because he does not live in his son's duplex basement, he is not an eligible elector to vote in or represent the 30th Assembly District. The fact that he does so means he commits a whole lot of felonious fraud to make it work for him. As reported by River Towns in February of 2016 and again in August, Shannon promised voters he would move if elected. His first promise, and at best, he failed to deliver. At worst, he lied. Second, to River Towns, how would voters even know what's going on or where he lives if based on your reporting? Your coverage alone conveyed the situation as one giant mystery. In case this is starting to get confusing, it's not a mystery. Shannon in sworn statements certifies that he is an elector of another assembly district. Putting aside the countless witnesses who can speak to where he lives based on personal observations and experiences, Shannon settles the issue in his own words, as reflected numerous places as a matter of public record. News outlets like the Milwaukee Sentinel and Up North News reported competently on this issue, but between paywalls and those who do not access the news through the internet, those sources of information are not universally accessible to our community. What can you do? Write letters to the editor. Ask them, why the shallow or non-existent coverage of issues and state legislation that affects our community? Ask them, why they make no effort to hold local officials accountable for falsehoods spread during election time. Much of what they lie about is public record. Why not provide the facts and let voters decide? The silence of the local newspaper is a powerful tool used by corrupt politicians to their benefit. Letters to the editor have to be under 300 words. Those submitted by Friday afternoon, in theory, will run the following week. I say in theory because they have a history of not running letters critical to them. So, don't be too hard-hitting, not too much truth, and you have to sugarcoat it just enough that it meets the Pleasantville standard for publication. You can send them to Ann Jacobson. Her email is ajacobson@rivertowns.net. For those of you wondering when we are getting to social media, you know, the title of today's episode, wait no further. We've covered the role and effectiveness of Republican talking points. We turn now to how they get those out into the community. Local radio is one go-to source to disseminate their false narratives. Social media is the other. Using local community groups, posing as, just your average soccer mom, Republican politicians have people in the community willing to toe their line. What does that look like? Let's say someone posts an article about the recent Republican COVID plan. Naturally, that article covers how this plan affects us voters and our community. Shouldn't be surprised, given the source, that those effects are, bad. Someone comes along and posts something to the extent of, after reading the entire Republican plan and not just a biased summary, it looks very good. Traditionally, a comment like that would go unchallenged, as it is intended. Who is going to tell someone what they did or didn't read? We, as the audience, lack first-hand knowledge and, it's rude. Comments like that are powerful in that no one challenges them and their message, or seemingly valid support of the Republican nonsense of the hour, stands. Amplify this phenomenon across a plethora of local issues or local discussions, and we can see why this is an effective tactic. I'm pleased to share some good news, though. People are beginning to be plugged in enough to start asking really good dismantling questions. Really? You had access to and time to get through the entire Republican COVID plan? Released yesterday? How? Can you post it here? Or, wow, that sounds good for an audience who is not going to ask for follow-up questions, but tell me, which part of the Republican plan is good? Which parts of the article are inaccurate? What about the rest of the COVID plan that you told us you read negates or changes what we're reading here? The more we develop an eye for what I call Robin Vos talking points, the more we respond with thoughtful questions that neutralize the political games afoot. How else do Republican political operatives exploit social media? They're really good at gaslighting people. For those of you who haven't experienced the crazy making that is gaslighting, live for me. What is gaslighting? It is a form of psychological abuse where someone messes with the reality of their target. One classic example is the abuser who moves the target's keys after she has placed them. When she is searching endlessly, the abuser then uses that situation to encourage the target to feel crazy or to accuse her of being forgetful, irresponsible, or some combination thereof that tends to belittle someone and erode their sense of confidence and self. In the case of social media, Republican operatives will calmly assert something that is so clearly not true and inflammatory that a rational person who knows better may and often does respond in frustration, perhaps even with expletives. That is exactly the response they want. The operative can then play the victim martyr, accuse the target of not being reasonable, or screenshot the post and share with an intended audience with a caption along the lines of, "Wow, look how bad these people are." The operative has no interest in an honest conversation. It is very frustrating for a target to calmly articulate what is going on for a number of reasons. For one, operatives don't show up and announce that they are manipulative, dishonest, or that they have an agenda. They post false assertions that could be the product of actual ignorance. To respond calling them a political operative makes the target look conspiratorial. It's a game that is much like wrestling with a pig. Everyone walks away wearing mud. Confusion and fighting helps false narrative talking points as they turn people off and do little to nothing to actually negate or effectively push back on lies. So what do? Develop an eye for those towing the line or those acting as political operatives and learn to calmly ask good questions that expose the game. Well, we've finished our third week of the podcast. Thank you to everyone who has been joining us. On a more somber note, we are projected to reach the loss of American lives at a rate of a 9/11 every single day by Christmas. Please be safe and responsible out there. Wear a mask, practice social distancing, and wash your hands. The high 30s and warm sun should feel good this weekend. Episode 16 Monday. See you there.